as an RTO manager. As a practitioner, ongoing learning kept me fresh, confident, and better equipped to meet the needs of diverse learners. But as a leader, I saw firsthand how powerful it is to have a team of people who are up to date, capable, and ready to deliver with both knowledge and integrity. It gave me confidence in the quality of our delivery and assurance that we were meeting not just the standards, but the real expectations of learners and industry. So we've got a lot to go through today. So again, I probably won't have time to answer questions, but please put any of your questions or any comments into the chat and we can deal with them as we have time. So the shift from compliance to capability is a game changer for the vet sector. Professional development isn't just about ticking boxes anymore. It's about building confidence, capable teams who can deliver real impact in a changing training landscape. And so under the 2025 standards, PD needs to be purposeful, inclusive, digitally savvy, and clearly linked to earner outcomes. It's a strategic priority, it's hard to say at 10 o'clock in the morning, and not an afterthought. And that means planning and tracking PD across your organisation, aligning it to your delivery modes, and using it to boost quality and competence across the board. Because when capability is the focus, PD becomes a real driver of excellence. So we're going to look at some practical ways that RTOs can plan, develop, and map PD activities. And more importantly, we'll look at how that shift from compliance-driven PD to something that's more meaningful can actually come about. We'll be drawing directly on the new outcome standards, specifically 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. So standard 3.1 requires RTOs to ensure they have the right number and mix of trainers and assessors and any other staff that's required to deliver high quality training and support. And so the RTO must identify and maintain appropriate staffing levels for all programs, define roles clearly and ensure staff have the skills and knowledge to perform them, and provide ongoing professional development to build and maintain staff capability. We need to support all staff, including third parties, to access PD and enable them to perform effectively. So the focus on 3.1, planning, staffing, workforce capability, and access to PD. Now 3.2 ensures that the people delivering training and assessment are credentialed, current and capable. So here the RTO must ensure that all trainers and assessors hold the appropriate qualification as defined by the credential policy. We need to support people working under supervision to ensure that they have the appropriate oversight and demonstrate how all trainers and assessors undertake ongoing PD and maintain up-to-date skills. So we're looking here at training and assessment strategies, engaging and supporting vet learners, and continuous improvement. So here the focus is on credentials, supervision, and PD for quality training. Now, standard 3.3 focuses on vocational competence and currency of trainers and assessors. So here the RTO's got to ensure that all the trainers and assessors have industry competencies and knowledge, and that knowledge is relevant to the units that they deliver. They need to maintain engagement with industry and ensure currency of practice, the tools that are used, and make sure they meet the standards. And we need to document how industry experts, if they're used, are ensuring that they work under direction and that they're enhancing real-world learning. We need to demonstrate that ongoing industry engagement informs delivery and assessment. So 3.3 focuses on industry consultation, vocational relevance, and current workplace knowledge. So let's rewind a little bit and think about how professional development has typically been handled in many RTOs. And I think it's fair to say that PD has often been treated like a compliance exercise. You know the drill. You attend a quick workshop, you log your hours, you upload your certificate to your file, and that's just enough to satisfy the next audit. In that environment, PD becomes an admin task. It's a checkbox. Now, here's the problem with that mindset. It meets the minimum, but it doesn't do much else. It doesn't help trainers grow. It doesn't improve the learning experience, and it certainly doesn't support innovation or relevance in our delivery. And why? Well, the vet world is dynamic. Technology is changing, industry expectations are shifting, and our learners are becoming more diverse than ever before. So when we approach PD with compliance lens, we miss the opportunity to truly strengthen our teams, uplift our practice, and build learning experiences that generally connect with the real world. So when professional development is driven by a compliance mindset, it tends to be reactive and disconnected from purpose. So activities are selected and recorded without any clear link to the staff member's role, the delivery content, or the learner's needs. There's usually no time set aside for reflection and no check on whether the learning was actually improved in your practice. On paper, it meets the requirements, but in reality, it misses the point. A capability mindset takes a deliberate and strategic approach to professional development. Activities are planned in advance, mapped to each trainer or assessor's role, aligned with the training products they deliver, and responsive to the needs of their learner cohort. When PD is tied to things like validation outcomes, performance reviews, and your organisational goals, it becomes part of a continuous improvement cycle and not a standalone task. And so this shift brings real benefits. It builds staff confidence, it improves the learner's experience, and it can spark innovation. And that lifts quality across the board. And it also changes how we think about PD. No longer just something that we have to do, but something that drives relevance, improvement, and professional pride. So when we shift from ticking boxes to building capability, it helps to have a clear structure, a way to think about the different areas where we can grow as professionals in the vet sector. And that's why the 5 capability domains come in. These are domains that reflect the real demands of our roles as trainers, assessors, and educational professionals. So in the next section, we're going to explore each domain individually. And I want you to, as we go through the content, I want you to think about your own context. I want you to think about what are your strengths and where might there be opportunities to stretch and improve. Okay, so we're ready? Let's take a closer look. So our focus will be on building professional capacity across these 5 domains. So we're going to start looking at delivering quality training and assessment. We'll move on to maintaining strong industry and vocational currency and enhancing digital skills for effective online learning. We'll then look at embedding professional practice so that it supports our diverse learners, and then finishing up with strengthening reflective practice so that we can sort of move and drive towards ongoing improvement. Okay, so let's start with the heart of what most of us do, and that's our training and assessment practice. So this domain is all about the core skills and knowledge that we need to deliver high quality training and fair and effective assessments. And this is where we have the theory meeting the practice, where the great learning experiences are built. And so it includes things like understanding the diversity of your learners, or knowing how to adapt your teaching or assessment to suit different needs. It's also about designing assessments that aren't just compliant, but ones that give learners the chance to show what they really know and what they can do. It also means creating engaging, inclusive spaces where learners feel supported, involved, and motivated to succeed. And just as importantly, it means aligning everything we do to that unit of competency. So we're training and assessing exactly what that training product requires. So professional development doesn't always have to be, a big formal course. It can just be something simple and finding meaningful ways to keep learning. So maybe it's a short validation workshop. Maybe it's revisiting adult learning principles, or just taking 30 minutes to reflect on learner feedback and asking what worked and what could I improve. And so these small moments matter. They build confidence, they sharpen your practice, and they keep us connected to what good training and assessment looks like. So here you go. Ask yourself, how confident are you in your learning approach? And what's one simple step you could take this week to keep growing? Professional development doesn't need to be time consuming. It just needs to be intentional. Okay, so now we're going to talk about something that really sets VET apart: industry and vocational currency. This domain is all about making sure we, as trainers and assessors, stay connected to real-world workplaces, the ones that our learners are heading into. It's about keeping our knowledge, skills, and awareness current. And so what we're teaching reflects what actually is happening out there in industry. When we're current, we can give learners better examples, up-to-date advice, and stronger pathways into employment. And it also helps us feel more confident that the delivery that we're doing isn't just compliant, it's aligned with what industry really needs. So staying connected doesn't need to be a big deal. It's often about little things that keep your training real and relevant. And so staying current could be simple, like a site visit, join a network, go to a business breakfast, chat with an employer, or read industry updates. We just need to remember to log it to show that we're keeping connected. So here's your second question. Ask yourself, are you staying in touch with your industry? And is there something you've been meaning to explore, but you haven't got around to it yet? Because now's the chance to reconnect, to stay current, and to bring more real-world relevance into your training. Okay. So let's move into a space that's become absolutely essential: digital capability. So no matter how we deliver, online, in person, blended, both, whatever you want to call it, digital skills are now part of the job. It's not about using, the tools, like using Moodle or Zoom or any of those types of things. It's about using them well to enhance learning. And that means creating engaging, accessible content, and meaningful data responsibly, and adapting your teaching to suit the tech. So the focus isn't just on the tools, it's on how you use them. So what can we do? Well, We can build our digital skills by getting hands-on with your LMS, creating SCORM compliant content, and exploring digital tools. I don't know, AI, Kahoot, Turnitin, Proctor.U. They're all great things to get your head around. Make sure your resources are accessible too. And understanding WCAG 2.1 helps ensure all learners can engage, especially those with disability or low learning digital. Now, what does WCAG 2.1 mean? Well, that means being familiar with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And these are internationally recognised standards developed by the World Wide Web Consortium. Try saying that 3 or 4 times. So ask yourself, are you confident in the digital tools your learners rely on? And what's one digital skill you could improve to make your delivery more engaging, accessible, or efficient? We're going to look at this domain that sits at the heart of learner-centred practice, and that's inclusive practice and cultural safety. Now, this domain is more about compliance. It's about creating spaces where every learner feels safe, respected, and supported. So this might mean applying universal design for learning principles, so your content works for a wider range of learners. It could mean embedding First Nations perspectives meaningfully into your units. Or it might be as simple as using inclusive communication techniques or providing your materials in easy read or accessible formats. And so professional development in this space is about creating a learning environment where everyone feels respected, supported, and able to succeed. So that might mean attending cultural awareness training, like learning about First Nations knowledge systems, or understanding local protocols before welcoming elders into the classroom. It could be completing a course on supporting learners with a disability, like strategies for working with students on the autism spectrum, or for those who've got low vision. You might also take time to review your materials and rework a unit to make it more inclusive. Use plain English, add captions to videos, offer content in multiple formats to suit different learning needs. Even something as simple as learning how to use inclusive language or checking your assessments for unconscious bias can all make a meaningful impact. So question 3, ask yourself, how inclusive is your practice? Write down something that you do really well, and then maybe make a note about where you might be able to stretch a little further. And finally, we come to the domain that ties all of the others together, and that's reflective practice and professional improvement. So this one is looking inward. It's where we pause, we check in with ourselves and we ask, what's working and what could be better? And it's being open to feedback, learning from experience and seeing growth as an ongoing part of our role, not just something we do once a year. Reflective practice is a mindset. It helps us identify our strengths and spot the areas where we can grow. It what turns professional development into real, meaningful change. And so reflective practice isn't just a bonus, it's about staying effective and learner-focused. It could be as simple as just jotting down notes after a session, chatting with a colleague about what worked, or reviewing a video of your own delivery. You might also use a framework, like the VET Practitioner Capability Framework. Do a self-check and set some goals. The key is about building these habits into your routine, not just a tick box, but as part of the way you grow. So Now, let's take another moment. How often do you stop to reflect on your own practice? And when you do, what helps you turn that reflection into real improvement? So we've looked at the 5 capability domains. So let's step back and take a look at why they really matter and why this framework is so useful for RTOs and for us as individuals practitioners. Each domain supports a different part of what makes RTOs function effectively. They offer a balanced, strategic approach to professional development. Instead of being random or ad hoc, the domains help us ask if the time spent on PD is meaningful and connected to improvement. And this approach helps ensure that PD isn't just fulfilling a requirement, it's genuinely improving outcomes. And it's not just for trainers and assessors. These domains provide a structure that they can use across the whole team. So everyone in the organisation has a clear, mapped pathway to grow in their role. So as you move forward in your own PD planning, think of these 5 domains as your compass. They'll help you keep aligned with your learners, your role, and your organisation's goals. So what does a capability-focused approach to PD actually look for the RTO? So I think that this is where we need to start with understanding our workforce, what they're delivering, who they're teaching, and what's changing. So from their plan and document PD at both the individual level and the organisational level. And support matters. PD needs time, budget, and recognition, not just good intentions. And it also includes casuals and contractors too. And don't forget to evaluate. Is it working? Is it improving outcomes? When PD is structured, supported and reviewed, it becomes part of the RTO's strategy, not just a compliance tick box. And finally, let's bring it back to the individual, the trainer, the assessor, or the person at the front of the learning experience. What does capability-focused approach mean for you? Well, first it means you need to make a commitment. Make a commitment to ongoing targeted professional development. Not just doing PD to meet the minimum, but choosing learning that's connected to your delivery area. And this kind of focus ensures that your PD has purpose and relevance. Second, it means taking time to reflect on your PD. Every workshop, every site visit, validation meetings, or mentoring sessions, they're all opportunities to grow. And finally, growth doesn't happen in isolation. Collaborating with others can be some of the most powerful PD you'll ever do. It helps you keep connected, supported, and open to new ways of thinking. So this shift from compliance to capability isn't just a policy update. It reflects the growing complexity, the evolving demands, and the increasing professionalism of the vet sector. Professional development shouldn't feel like a tick box or a burden to carry. It should be one of our greatest tools, a lever that lifts practice, inspires growth, and fuels continuous improvement. I do have a question about what to include in a reflective journal and in reflective practice. And a little bit further on in the session today, we do look at that a little bit. So I'll come to that shortly. Okay, so this is important. When PD is embedded, it becomes part of the rhythm of the workplace. Everyone involved in training and assessment, whether they're permanent, part-time, casuals, contracts, whatever, they need access to meaningful development that supports their delivery and keeps their skills sharp. So by taking this approach, we build more capable teams, deliver better learner outcomes, and create an environment where improvement is just part of how we do things. So PD shouldn't feel like a burden. When it's done well, it energizes people, builds confidence, and strengthens the quality of what we deliver. So professional development shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be part of how we teach, assess, and support learners every day. And so when PD is embedded, it's aligned to what matters: learner needs, organisational goals, and real quality improvement. It's backed by time, resources, and leadership support. This is very important. And it's reviewed regularly to make sure that it's making a difference. It really must be a shared responsibility. And so that lets us build a stronger learning culture. It lifts compliance and it helps us keep up with change. So I believe that embedded PD isn't just helpful, it's how we make quality sustainable. So I think to get real value from PD, we need to think intentional, inclusive, and aligned. So intentional meaning planning PD that's purposeful and relevant. Inclusive, it means supporting everyone, casuals, contractors, and our diverse learners. And aligned means connecting PD to your RTO's goals, to your training delivery, and to your industry needs. Done well, PD isn't a task, it's a quality, it's a driver of quality and improvement. So one of the best ways to embed PD is to stop treating it like a separate task and start linking it into your planning. So look, if you're rolling out a new qualification, changing a delivery mode, or reaching a new learner group, each of these is a chance to build capability. So you can ask, what skills will our trainers need? Where are the gaps? And how can we support them to adapt? Done well, PD doesn't just build confidence, but it also helps manage risks too. So let me give you an example. Let's say your RTO is planning to offer more online courses. Now, that's not just a tech upgrade. It's actually a big change in how our trainers deliver and engage. So instead of just buying the new platform and hoping for the best, you set a team PD goal focused on building competence and skills in digital andragogy. Maybe that includes short workshops, time to trial the tools, an opportunity to share what works. And then suddenly, PD isn't just reactive, it's purposeful, timely, and aligned to your bigger goals. To make PD count, it has to feel relevant. And that's why role-based and team PD plans matter. So each staff member should have a plan that links to what they actually do, their delivery areas, responsibility, or their growth goals. And at the team level, PD should respond to real feedback, our validation results, audit findings, what we get from learners. And it also starts to help, it also helps to start early. When PD is part of the job description and onboarding, it sends a clear message. Learning is just part of how we work. So here's another of my examples. Let's say we've got new staff. Onboarding might include a short PD self-assessment, something quick, practical, that helps identify any immediate support needs. Maybe they'd never used your LMS before, or they'd like a refresher on, I don't know, validation processes. A simple tool like this shows that you're investing in their success from day one, and it helps tailor support early before small issues become big ones. If we want PD to matter, we've got to treat it like real work, not just something squeezed in around the edges. So that means giving time in the calendar, paying people for it, whoa, and making it part of everyday conversations, team meetings, planning days, check-ins. And it doesn't have to be done alone. When teams learn together at webinars and workshops, conference, etc., it builds shared skills and stronger connections. So I know of one RTO that set up regular PD Fridays. They just do it once a month, and this is where the team comes together for a shared session. Sometimes they bring in a guest speaker. Sometimes it's a practical workshop, but other times it's just space for trainers and assessors to share tips and talk about what's working. It's relaxed, it's useful, and it reinforces that learning is a normal and valued part of the job. And not a lot PD has to come from outside. Some of the best learning happens when we start to tap into the strengths that we already have on our team. Things like code delivery, mentoring, shadowing. Let staff learn on the job, and from people who've been there and get it. And when peer coaching becomes the norm, learning turns into a shared everyday practice. And that will build not only skills, but also confidence and trust. And so, as an example, a senior assessor supports new team members for the first 6 months. They offer guidance on assessment practices. They might sit in on sessions or be the go-to person. And it's not about hand-holding. It's about building confidence through connection. This kind of informal mentoring creates a strong foundation for quality and consistency, especially when you're onboarding new staff or launching new programs. And so to really embed PD, it needs to be a part of your measure to improve, not just one-off tasks. So we want to start by building it into regular performance chats. These conversations are a great chance to set goals, check in on progress, and work out what support is needed. And PD logs, they're very useful. Reviewing them together keeps things on the radar and helps spot trends. And data is your friend here. Feedback, audits, even complaints can all point to areas where PD can make a real difference. And like if you've got learner survey results that show some students feel, I don't know, excluded or unsupported, the team might focus on strengthening inclusive teaching practices. And this could lead to a targeted PD on cultural safety, trauma-informed practice, or accessibility strategies. It's not just about responding to the data, it's using it. It's using it to build a more capable and responsive workforce. So as I said, professional development should feel like a chore. It should feel like something we do, and it shouldn't feel like something that we do just to satisfy auditors. When it's truly embedded, PD becomes part of everyday culture and something everyone values, contributes to, and benefits from. So start framing PD as a shared responsibility. It's not just up to managers or compliance staff. Everyone has a role to play in building capability. And then what we want to do is we want to celebrate that, because this helps shift the mindset from I have to do this to this is actually helping me grow. And don't forget to recognise those who contributed behind the scenes. Small acts of capability building add up to a big impact. So maybe include a PD spotlight in your internal newsletter or monthly meeting. Highlight what somebody's learned, how it's helped their teaching, or what changes they've made. Doesn't have to be formal. Just real stories that show PD is making a difference. And over time, this builds momentum and sends a clear message. Learning is part of who we are. So I think we need to understand that effective PD isn't about doing more. It's about doing it well. And so when PD is targeted and supported and part of the bigger plan, it doesn't just tick the boxes. It builds a stronger and more capable workforce. So over the next few slides, we're going to explore some practical strategies for achieving this. So we're going to look at 10 ways to make PD meaningful, manageable, and aligned with both individual roles and organisational roles. So it makes PD a daily practice to give us long-term improvement. Okay, so here we go. The best way to build skills is to get hands-on, whether it's a role play, simulations, or tracking real-world challenges together. Active PD helps trainers and assessors try out things and build confidence. And so they're ready to use those strategies when it counts. Some of the best PD comes from your own team. Professional learning communities give staff a regular space to share ideas, work through challenges, and learn from each other. It turns PD into something collaborative and helps grow a culture of support and growth. Excuse me. And everyone benefits from a bit of one-on-one support. Coaching and mentoring gives trainers space to grow with guidance that's tailored to them. It's the kind of PD that builds confidence, not just now, but for the long term. PD doesn't always have to be formal or separate. Some of the best learning happens on the job, through co-teaching, peer observations, or joint lesson planning. It's practical, immediate, and tied to real work. Learner data can also steer us in the right direction. It shows where support is needed most, so PD is targeted and effective. And with digital tools now part of everyday teaching, helping staff build digital confidence is a must, especially when we're working with remote or diverse learners. So we know today's learners are diverse, and so our practices need to be too. PD that builds cultural awareness and inclusive practice helps create safe, supportive spaces for everyone. Reflection also matters. Just stopping to ask what's working can spark real growth, whether it's journaling, peer feedback, or self-checks. It helps trainers stay thoughtful and intentional. But real change takes time. So PD shouldn't just be done and dusted. It needs follow-up, space to try new things, and support along the way. And because every practitioner is different, PD should be flexible, whether it's a quick webinar, mentoring session, or conference. Giving people choice helps development of personal and makes it relevant. The updated standards for RTO recognise that quality training is a whole of organised effort. So that means that professional development isn't just for trainers and assessors, it's for everyone in supporting learners and delivering services. And that's from your compliance officer to your admin teams, to managers. Building capability across the board is key. So the next few strategies we're looking at are great for all RTO staff. These ones are practical, flexible, and designed to make PD part of everyday practice. And so this means that your team will stay current, confident, and ready to deliver quality outcomes. So, excuse me, keep your admin and your compliance teams up to speed with regular updates on standards, on reporting, on practices that you do. So there's no panic when it comes to time for audit. Support frontline staff with training and communication, cultural awareness, and conflict resolution. They're the first impressions learners get. And make sure your team knows how to use your systems confidently, especially when new tools or features are introduced. And as we keep saying, don't underestimate the power of data. Simple workshops can help staff use it to make better decisions and spot what's working or not. And finally, great teams don't just happen. We need to invest in leadership, in collaboration, and in team building, so everyone stays connected and that they're ready to grow. A professional development plan is more than just a checklist of training sessions. It's strategic and a personalised roadmap for growth. It outlines how an individual will build their capability over time in ways that are meaningful and relevant to their role. So by setting clear goals and tracking progress, a PD plan helps make professional growth intentional, ongoing, and aligned with both compliance and quality improvement. It also supports staff to stay current, confident, and connected to the purpose of their work. So a good PD plan should start with one simple question. What does this person actually do? It's not about picking what's ever available. It's about matching development to what the trainer delivers, how they deliver it, and who their learners are. The learner group really matters. These details help shape the PD so that it's genuinely useful. I've got a couple of examples. So we've got a trainer who's delivering Certificate 3 in individual support to learners in regional areas. They might benefit from PD in trauma-informed practices, online facilitation, and trends in ageing workforce. We might have a digital content developer working on building and construction units. So they might find PD in accessibility design, virtual reality tools, or 3D modelling more relevant. So before planning your next steps, it's worth taking stock of where you are now. So think about your day-to-day role, what training products you deliver or support, and who your learners are. And then the challenges that you might face. What frameworks or standards apply to your work? Then I think it's really important to use your job description or a capability matrix to spot any gaps. This will help you focus where your PD will make the biggest difference. And look, here's a tip. Ask your team members or your manager for feedback. Sometimes other people see things that we don't. So a quick chat with your manager or colleague can offer helpful insights into your strengths and possible development areas. They might also be able to point you towards learning opportunities or offer support that you hadn't considered. Okay, so once you're clear on your role, then the next step is to check in on how you're going to track it across the areas that matter most in your work. So it's not about rating yourself against perfection. It's about getting a realistic view of where you're confident and where there's room to grow. So you might ask, what am I doing well? What's changed recently in my work? And are there any gaps that I've noticed? Or maybe that others have pointed out? Taking time for this step helps make your PD planning focused, relevant, and actually useful for your day-to-day work. Okay, so once you've identified what your development areas are, the next step is about setting some goals to work with, but not just any goals. Yep, we know it. You need to use SMART goals. We all love SMART goals. So setting SMART goals helps you keep your PD focused and doable. It also makes it easier to track your progress. And you can feel a sense of achievement as you tick your things off. So we want to start small and don't be afraid to adjust your goals as things evolve. The main thing is that they're meaningful to you and help you move your practice forward. Okay, we've set some goals. Now, how are we going to get there? We need to choose activities that are practical, relevant, and realistic for your time and your workload. So it doesn't have to be a big course. Plenty of great learning happens through short sessions, peer chats, or things already happening in your day-to-day. The key is to match the activity to the goal. So doing PD is one thing, but, you know, as I've said, we need time to reflect. And this is where the real growth happens. And it's easy to skip this bit when you're busy, but jotting down what you've learned helps track progress, prepare for audits, and you see how your practice is evolving. It doesn't have to be fancy, just something that works for you. It's a good idea to check in on your PD goals regularly. Roles shift, feedback rolls in, priorities change. Your PD should keep pace. So a quick review can help you update your log, refresh your goals, and reflect what's happening or what's changing in your practice and plan your next step. You know, even reading a short article or a chat with a mentor can keep things going. And the aim is to make PD a natural part of your routine, not something you think about just once a year. So here's a simple example of what a PD plan might look like. Nothing fancy, just clear and practical. You don't need a complex system to make it work, just a basic table, goals, your activities, the time frame, and a few notes or comments on the outcomes. And that's more than enough. What matters is that it helps you stay focused, track your progress, and reflect on what you're learning is actually achieving in practice. Now, these days, it's just not enough to do professional development, as we've said. What really matters is how you plan it, track it, and reflect on what you're doing. So PD is most effective, just excuse me for a second. Yeah, PD is most effective when it's planned with purpose, mapped to key capability areas or compliance expectations, tracked over time, and reviewed for impact. So taking the time to map and document your PD does more than tick a box. It helps show continuous improvement, supports audit readiness, and gives you a clear picture of your growth. Okay, So what do we mean by mapping PD? So this is the process of linking your PD activities to the specific goals, your responsibilities or standards. Think of it like this. Why am I doing this PD? What skills or expectations does it support? And when you can answer that, your learning has a clear purpose and you can explain its value. So mapping tools might include a PD planning table with columns for domain, purpose, and evidence, a capability matrix to identify gaps and align activities, or a mapping log that connects each activity to its relevant objective or standard. And so then what does it actually mean to document your PD? This is just about keeping a simple record, what you did, when you did it, what you learned, and how it mattered. Include who ran it, what you took away, any evidence, like a certificate or a resource, and what you did differently. It's helpful for audits, but more importantly, it shows how far you've come and where you might head next. Sorry, my clicker has gone on the blink. Okay, so good documentation makes PD meaningful and manageable. So keeping a track of the professional development, as we said, doesn't have to be difficult, but doing it well makes a big difference. Using consistent, thoughtful documentation helps you ensure your PD is not only recorded, but actually useful. It supports audit readiness, encourages reflection, and shows that learning is being applied. So this table outlines a few simple best practices and why they matter. A good PD record doesn't just list what you did, it shows why it matters. By tracking the purpose, the focus area, and the impact, you can link learning to your everyday practice. When PD is clearly mapped and documented, it feeds straight into the RTO's continuous improvement efforts. So let's look at how PD drives continuous improvement. Professional development plays a vital role in building quality across an RTO. And it's not just about the upskilling of individuals, but it's about strengthening the organisation as a whole. So we're just going to look at a couple of areas that work hand in hand. So we'll recap these key elements. Reflection matters. So taking time to think about what's working, and help us grow and stay flexible. Learning is better together. Professional learning communities build trust and boost team improvement. We want to let the data guide us. It helps us focus on where our PD actually counts. And we want to go beyond one-offs. Long-term, purpose-driven PD leads to real lasting change. To really make PD count, link it to your RTO's bigger picture. Align it with your goals, improvement priorities, so it drives the whole organisation forward. Build a culture where people are curious, supported, and encouraged to try new things. And finally, check in often. Use feedback and see what's working and shape what comes next. And that's how PD becomes part of your continuous improvement story. So just before we move on to this last little bit here, there is a question that asks, is it better for each person to have their own PD log, or should we have a central one. I'd say yes to both. Each individual should have their PD log, but it also should be put into some way that the organisation knows what's happening as well. And so it could be just as simple as providing a template that's linked to your drive. Okay. Now, this is always the elephant in the room. Let's be honest, stakeholder engagement isn't always easy. It takes time, coordination, and sometimes a bit of courage to open the door to feedback, especially when things are busy or resources are tight. Stakeholder engagement is really about keeping connected with people who shape and are shaped by our training. Industry reps, employers, learners, staff, the community. It's an ongoing conversation that RTOs stay aligned with what matters most, the relevance, the responsiveness, and those real world outcomes. Look, if anyone has any tips to help with this industry engagement, please pop it in the chat. I'm sure everyone will be so thankful. You know, this is one area that I find really hard. Okay, so meaningful stakeholder engagement keeps your training grounded in real world. We know that. Talking with industry helps you stay up to date with current tools and practices. Listening to students shows you what's working and what needs to shift. But don't forget, involving trainers and employers in resource development makes assessment more relevant and more realistic. Stakeholder feedback can also highlight staff training needs or support gaps. ASQA also highlights stakeholder engagement as a key marker of strong governance and self-assurance. So it's not just about consultation, it's really about collaboration. So the more connected an RTO is with its community of learners and trainers and industry, the better positioned it is so that the RTO can deliver training that truly meets the mark. We go on and on about mentoring and evaluation, but what's it really about? Sorry, I should have said monitoring, not mentoring. Monitoring and evaluation. It's at the heart. So monitoring and evaluation just means checking regularly at how things are going. Are you meeting your goals, staying compliant, and improving where needed? For self-assuring RTOs, this is a mindset. It's from ticking boxes to taking ownership of quality. It's about spotting issues early and driving your own standards. No, not waiting for someone else to find the gaps. I think the terms monitoring and evaluation often get confused. So monitoring is those regular check-ins, keeping an eye on how things are going day to day. Evaluation is where we take that step back and we ask, did it work? What impact did it have? And it's based on evidence like outcomes and feedback. So together they help you stay on track and keep improving. So monitoring asks how it's going. Evaluation asks, what did we learn? And we need to make it part of what we do all the time. We need to build it into our check-ins. We need to build check-ins into our calendar, maybe around your delivery cycle or key activities like validation or audits. It also helps to have once a year a big picture so that you can spot what's working and where to improve. And I think it's really important that we don't rely on one data point. The more sources you look at, the clearer your picture and the better your decisions. And we need to keep a focus on those riskier areas. Focus your mentoring on where things are most monitoring. Sorry, I've got mentoring on the brain now. Focus your monitoring where things are most likely to go wrong. New training products, new team members, and have some clear red flags in place. Think of things like repeated complaints or odd patterns in assessment. They tell you it's time to look closer. Make sure everyone knows what you're doing. Clarity is key. Who's responsible for what? Using consistent tools like checklists and templates keeps things on track and easy to follow. And we need to write it down. Don't rely on memory. Record what was reviewed. Who did it? What happened? What came out of it? And just important, note what actions were taken and what changed. Good records help you to keep on track. Okay, so how does the evaluation and monitoring cycle go? Plan, collect, review, decide, act, evaluate. Easy, practical, and always focused on improvement. I've just popped here some helpful tools that can support this process. They can help make quality improvement part of your everyday practice. So embedding self-assurance and continuous improvement isn't about more admin. It's about working smarter. So we need to start with a clear quality framework so everyone knows what good looks like. We need to get staff involved, share ideas, and stay alert to risks before they grow. And use digital tools to simplify tracking and decision-making. Keep that conversation going. When these habits become part of everyday operations, quality becomes business as usual and not just something you prep for all the time. So just quickly, because I know we're right on our hour, let's just have a little think about what self-assurance is in an RTO. So self-assurance is all about how an RTO helps keep itself on track. It means having internal systems and processes in place that not only meet the standards for the RTO, but also support a genuine culture of quality and improvement. So rather than treating compliance as a once-a-year event, self-assurance is making quality part of everyday practice. Self-assurance means embedding regular monitoring, meaningful stakeholder engagement, and data-informed decisions into everyday practices. So it's not proactive. It should be proactive and not reactive. And this approach aligns with ASQA's focus on RTOs taking ownership of their own quality. The RTO needs to be always improving, staying compliant, and delivering the best possible outcomes for learners. Continuous improvement means looking for ways to do things better, not just once, but as a part of how your RTO operates every day. It's about checking in against the standards, listening to feedback, and making meaningful changes. And then, of course, always documenting what you've done and why. When it's embedded in daily practice, it becomes part of the culture. So let's wrap things up. Excuse me. Professional development is really at the heart of what we do in the vet space. For trainers and assessors, it's about more than ticking a box. It's about staying sharp, feeling confident, and being able to give learners the best possible experience. So whether it's brushing up on assessment skills, learning new tech, or understanding how to support diverse learners, it all adds up. For the RTO, the real magic happens when PD is planned, supported, and built into everyday practice. It's not just about sending people to workshops once a year. It's about making space for growth, encouraging reflection, and linking PD to what really matters. And that's our learner outcomes, our industry needs, and our continuous improvement. And you know what? The good news, it doesn't have to be complicated. Small things can make a big impact when they're part of the bigger plan. So the big questions are, what does PD look like in your team? How can you make it even more meaningful and embedded into the way you work? Because when professional development becomes part of culture, it's not just compliance. We all win. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time and hope that you found this session